What up, what up, what up, good people? Happy people, happy May. We are here, we are here, we are excited. This is your girl Simona with Lit Love Journey. Also, beside me to my right or to my left, depending on how she's presenting on your screen, is
Jalinda,
what up, G?
coming to you from the great outdoors.
Hey. So, y'all, that means, no matter where you are, you can tap in. Whether you are outdoors, indoors, we want to make sure you feel welcomed in this space. It is an informal space where we have an opportunity to share libations, share dialogue, or be in dialogue, right? We like to think of ourselves as a podcast that's specifically for the culture, by the culture when it comes to books, book clubs, readers, influencers, all of that good stuff we want to highlight so you are tapped in and you are most aware of what is available to you. Now, what is a happy hour book chat, you may be asking? Literally, it's a happy hour. You can have your beverage, you can drink along with us, we could have a cheers moment. But it's just a conversation, right? An opportunity for us to have fun and talk about reading, talk about books, right? In a viable way. It's a way for us to connect, that, allows us to promote literacy. So what else? There's nothing more fun than that. And we have a new format. This is our fifth episode following this format, y'all, where we have every single month a reading buddy. Now, I don't know. I'm going to date myself. Y'all remember my buddy? My buddy, my buddy, my buddy
I
goes.
do remember my buddy.
Do you remember?
I
Classic.
do.
It
But
was
I had
classic.
a sunshine pet. That was my buddy, my sunshine pet. I don't know if you remember those.
I was going to say, you might have lost me there, but I think I've heard of it. They're
They
similar,
were
right?
similar to the Cabbage Patch dolls where you would adopt it and give it a name, you get the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But my buddy, he didn't have a female companion, so at least I don't remember one. So I had a sunshine pet.
I love that. See, so no matter what doll you had, we all had buddies growing up, and so as adults, we need not to forget, like, there's opportunities for us to be in buddy, relationships with other groups, with other people. And this month, the month of May, we had the pleasure of having a buddy in Chicago. I want to bring her on, Miss Cynthia, representing the Black Girls Shy Book Club. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, good to see you.
Good seeing
And
you
good
too.
to see everyone. I guess not really see them, but everyone's joining on the YouTube stream.
Just to be in company. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's pre-Friday, so we're almost there to the weekend. But I'm just really happy to be here and excited to talk about this book with you.
Yes, and tell people. Okay, so make sure I didn't butcher it. It is Black Girls Shy. What's the official name of your
Yeah,
book?
so our name is Black Girls Read Chicago or Black Girls Read Book Club. And the name sort of explains it all, I think. We're a Chicago-based book club by and for Black women, and we read books from across the Black diaspora.
Awesome. That is so exciting. Um, and I understand, Cynthia. I think I saw a post very recently that you were featured in a publication about your work as a book club organizer. Can you share more with folks so they
Yeah,
are
so
aware?
it was just a little interview where I talked about. I really loved the theme of this interview because it was about how book clubs can be used to address loneliness and this larger idea of book clubs as a way of connecting with people across sort of geography and other lines. And I guess when I was first approached about it, I was a little bit surprised at sort of the loftiness of that because I thought of myself as running this little book club that's in Chicago, and we get on Zoom every month and we talk about a book, and it's no big deal. But having that conversation, I realized, oh yeah, it actually is much more than that. Even if you don't sort of think of it in that way, it really does allow people to connect with each other over this shared interest. And we were talking a little bit, before the show started about, these connections that you can form through book clubs across that we've been able to form due to being sort of online due to the pandemic. And we were mostly in person before 2020, and there was a lot of bad that came out of the pandemic, obviously. But I think one of the good things was the rise of the Zoom meeting and being able to have people from all over join and participate in the discussions. So we have people from across Chicago and the suburbs participate, but also people from around the country, whether they used to live in Chicago and be with us in person, but then move away for whatever reason, they were still able to participate that way. We've had people invite their friends who just happen to be in, the Caribbean or in Europe or in Africa, who wanted to see what this book club thing was all about. So when someone joins in who says, English isn't my first language, but my teacher said this would be a great way for me to it would be great for me to participate in this conversation, and then have that person speak flawless English and, participate,
Wait a minute.
have just like an amazing discussion where she brings something totally different from some of the other participants. It's been sort of really magical. So, so book club it's more than just sort of, the sitting in a room and talking about a book. It really is about connection and finding other people who enjoy the same things as you and spending time and being in community with each other.
Mm-hmm. And I love something, again, you just shared, perhaps thanks to the pandemic, thanks to technology, but like being able to connect to folks all over the world, like that is that's a special thing. And there aren't too many opportunities, I feel like, as an adult, if you're not connected to like a, academic, or it's your job maybe sends you on travel, or you have means to travel financially, but it's one way to become cultured, right? And hip and aware of what's happening.
Yeah. And, we think of traveling and meeting new people in terms of meeting people from different countries. But what I found fascinating about my book club is that we have people who represent all kinds of cultures, even within like the Black community in the United States, right? So we have people who, were talented 10th Black, Black sorority or fraternity, Black sorority alums, and Black middle class. And then we had people who grew up very poor, very rural, their family came up during the Great Migration. People who are immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean, first or second generation. So like there's this diversity even within this group of Black women, and we're learning from each other about Black cultures. And we don't often think of, Black cultures or the Black community as having diversity within it, or at least that's the message that we often get from people outside of our community, saying that we're just sort of this monolith that all has the same experience. But then you sit down at a table with 12 Black women talking about a book like Mame, and you realize that's not the case. We all come at these stories from, totally different directions.
And so your book club, you've already read Mame, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we read and discussed it this past Sunday.
How did that go? I mean, without going to, I know we're not at the point of like, us kind of sharing our thoughts, but what was the general feel?
Yeah, people really liked it. I think it hit close to home for many of us in some uncomfortable ways. Especially like I come from a Nigerian immigrant Black background. So even though this story is about a Ghanaian family, a lot of it felt very familiar. And so I think that was sort of the consensus, that we could all find little parts of the protagonist's life that we connected with. Maybe not all of it, but there was definitely something to connect with in her.
So relatability is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
That part.
Yeah.
And y'all will know what we mean. Keep on listening to the conversation.
Yep.
And Jalinda's smiling. Y'all can't see her on screen, but she knows, because she also, not to speak for you, but enjoyed very much, I know, the book. So yeah, keep on listening, and we gonna make sure that y'all walk away with a good sense of this book without giving you all the details, because no spoilers will be
No
given.
spoilers.
But we want you to know just how much of a gem this book is. And I know from a Lit Love Journey perspective, having partnered with you this past month with this reading selection, you chose so wisely. What made you choose this book?
It was a book, so it just came out this year, right? But it was everywhere when it first came out, and the story of a daughter of immigrants who was trying to figure out her place in her family's new country really spoke to me. We'd also read a string of books from the Black American authors. And I really liked the idea of reading something from a UK European author. We try to keep it mixed up, and we also hadn't read a new book in a while. So this was I generally shy away from them a little bit because you never know what's just hype versus what's going to sort of stand the test of time. And hardcovers are expensive, so
Say that again.
So I try not to choose too many brand new books for the book club, but this one I just felt like it was sort of a perfect book club book, while still being very substantive and having a lot to dig into.
No, that makes sense. I feel like, again, as an organizer of a book club, is it not one of those kind of like nervous points of like, will I pick the right book? Will folks enjoy this? This is going to be trash.
And some books do not. So, there's always a little apprehension when the book selection goes out, whether people are going to say, I've never heard of this. Why would you choose this? In general, that hasn't been the reaction. But I'm always a little nervous, especially with a brand new book where it's hard to, like I said, sort of weed out the marketing, post-publication hype from actual sort of positive reaction to it. So I think this one lived up to the hype.
I think so too. I really do. And I just want to, also take a minute just to kind of, again, just make sure folks have a full understanding in terms of your book club. And I know you said, you shared with me, maybe it was more so off screen, but I know you're transitioning to possibly go back in person, but is there anything folks should know in terms of maybe potentially joining your book club? Like, what are some things they should know?
Yeah, so we are based on meetup.com. So, we've been around since 2016. So, going on 7 years this September. So we've been around a long time. We have, lots of longstanding members, but welcoming new people all the time. I think the important things to know are sort of what I said at the top, that it's a book club by and for Black women. And we, I think we're a pretty welcoming group. So we want people to join, just, regardless of sort of background or level of familiarity with book clubs or, the types of books they like to read. I think all I ask is people to have sort of an open mind, because we will read everything from romance to, really the classics to memoir to, serious nonfiction. And people generally just go with it. And, my hope is that the book club introduces you to books that you may not have read on your own necessarily. And you have a really great conversation about a topic or a person that you may not have had otherwise. And, most of all, just, enjoy the community and the conversation and being part of, this group of sort of like-minded individuals while, being able to share your own perspective. So yeah, we're on meetup.com, we're on Instagram. And you can join. There's no cost, nothing like that. We meet monthly, the last Sunday of the month in the afternoon. We're trying to be in person, but we'll see where things take us. And if you're not able to join us sort of in person or online during the meetings, we more than welcome you to follow along on Instagram or Meetup with the book selections. And feel free to DM me. I'm always ready. We're happy to talk about books. So drop me an email or drop me a message if you want to say this book, anything about the book. I'm happy to chat, even outside of the book club meetings.
I love that. Well, we appreciate you because we definitely slid in your DMs
Yeah.
to set up this
I will.
conversation. And yeah, and hopefully, you have, a reading promoter, kind of for life. In terms of anything that you are doing, feel free to tag us. Anything. It could be
Yeah,
an
and
event,
likewise.
whatever. We want to be able to share it out with folks, and maybe one day we'll be in Chi-Town. And in that case, we want to know what bookstores to go to,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah. I will give you a tour anytime.
I love it.
Anytime. Let me know. Let me know when you're in town.
I love it. So that kind of segues nicely into the segment around like reading lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
So when we think of reading lifestyle, I want y'all to think of this song. This is I love all genres of music. So, and I'm also probably dating myself in terms of age. But if you remember the song Lifestyle, it was by I think it was a Rich Gang and Rich Homie Quan. And the only part I remember the song, y'all don't sue me. It's literally the lifestyle. People need to know reading is a lifestyle too. And it's a whole vibe and it's fun and it can be everything you want it to be in terms of variety and types. That's literally the reason for these conversations. Is just to make sure to show the diversity, right, of book clubs and then again reading lifestyle. So yeah, this is a round robin discussion at this point. Would love to know like what are some tips y'all have? Like what are your favorite genres of reading and kind of like why? I'm very curious to know.
Oh, Glinda, I don't think I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else is having trouble.
No, I can't hear you. Did you put in your headphones, G? Mm-mm. No, we can't hear you through the headphones. Sometimes those headphones they
Yeah.
hear a challenge. Say something now. No, we heard you just perfectly earlier. I think it's probably the headphones. They can sometimes throw off the audio. Mm-mm. Not a word coming through.
Sometimes technology is
No,
wonderful. Sometimes it's not so much.
I know, right? But in the meantime, Cynthia would love to know what's
Yeah.
your
So
favorite genre and kind of like why.
yeah, I was a little apprehensive about that question when you sent me the information about this episode because I have been struggling with reading over the last couple of years. Partly it's an attention span thing, it's a stress thing, it's a you know just really can't find anything to interest me thing. So I've been really glad to have the book club to at least force me to read one book a month.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tear through them pre-pandemic, and now it often just I pick one up and it just doesn't happen. What has helped is just giving myself freedom to read things that aren't so serious. So even something like Mame, I think people sort of think of it, literary fiction, if you're a fiction reader, is like the pinnacle of what you should read. And pulling away from that and saying, you know what, mysteries are fun, romances are fun.
Mm-hmm.
All of that still counts as reading. So I've started. I really like romance books, so I will, just put a bunch on a Kindle and I'll just carry that everywhere. And you can fly through one of those, and that at least, I'm reading and I'm reading something that I enjoy and having fun with it. And it doesn't feel so much like homework or something. And I also don't feel bad if I read 2 pages and decide I'm too distracted. I'm going to watch Netflix for a little while. I can pick it back up later and I don't forget like what happened or the characters because the stories are generally fairly simple. There's not too many characters to remember. And even if you don't remember a character, it really doesn't matter because all romance is sort of interchangeable to a certain extent. There are certain tropes, and if you know the tropes, you know how the story's going to end. It's fine. That has been sort of what I've done to get myself back into the habit of reading and having fun with it, as opposed to treating it like homework. But generally, I'm a big just literary fiction reader, and more contemporary stuff, but also a lot of the classics. I love Toni Morrison. I love Maya Angelou. Not so much. She doesn't write so much fiction, but her essays and her memoirs I've loved since I was a kid. So yeah, if anyone is struggling with reading or finding time to read or paying attention to whatever they're reading, I hear you. I'm in the same boat. You can still call yourself a reader and be a reader and even lead a book club, even if you are not perfect in that respect.
That is so honest. Thank you for that.
It's a struggle. I'm working on it.
But that's the level of honesty we need, because there's this, sometimes I think this, readers look a certain way. Mm-hmm. Readers are like always in a book, and just.
Or especially when you're online like we are, where you see these people and their book stacks where I read 12 books this month and here are my favorite 6. And like, I didn't even read 6 books, much less 12, to be able to do a ranking of how many of my favorite books this month. I read 2 and they were both good. Those are my reviews. So not getting into that comparison is also good. If you can't read 10 books, if you can't read 5 books, you can't read 2 books. It's all fine. You're still a reader.
Mm-hmm. So y'all hear that? Straight from Cynthia's mouth. I totally, I just want to say I affirm and agree, because I think we definitely get into this competition mode with a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. And you can read for sport, right? If that's what you like to do, right? You are that kind of but you don't have. There's no competition.
Right. I like that. Read for sport. I don't like sports, so I'm gonna, pull myself out of that competition.
I know nothing about sports. I'm probably the worst person to talk to about any kind of sport. I confuse football players with basketball players. It's bad. I don't know the rules to me.
You hear about competitive people and I'm like, I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what that feels like. It must be nice, but I don't know what that feels like.
No, you're right. Same here. I just love that you shared that. I really do. And I hope folks are hearing that from an organizer standpoint, to share that sometimes it's still a challenge for you to even finish a book, for me to finish. And I would agree that since pandemic, it has been more difficult. Yeah. I would even echo that statement. I don't know what happened. Well, a lot of things happened during the pandemic, right? And I also think in terms of the attention span part, because of the pandemic, our brains are still, to some degree, sifting through things and still kind of trying to find that new normal.
Yeah.
So in terms of where reading may fall in the grand scheme of things, it might not just yet. So even when I was just sharing about this episode to a couple of friends, and I was like, yeah, it's okay if you haven't read all year, still listen in, and something might catch your ear about the particular book, and you might pick it up after the fact. Like, I have several friends who are like, okay, this sounds like an amazing book, I'm gonna pick it up, and they haven't yet. But I was like, it's pick it up later. Mm-hmm. Get it from the library, put it on, like, to your point, put it on your Kindle.
Yeah. With reading, sometimes a book isn't good or bad, right? Sometimes it just doesn't find you at the right time, right? So you pick something up, you're not feeling it, you put it away. 10 months later, you come back and you fly through it. I find that happens so often. I don't know if you have that experience too, but sometimes a book just isn't the right time, and maybe it'll be better timing 10 months from now or 10 years from now. But also giving myself permission to stop reading a book has been, huge in terms of treating it as something fun to do as opposed to a chore. Before, I think I was very, I get 50 pages in and I think, well, I've got to finish this. I've already committed. Now I get 50 pages in and I'm not enjoying it. I think life is too short. I've got so many other things that I could be doing right now. I'm going to try again some other time with a different book. And I think that's very healthy. I'm in support of quitting with books.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Not holding yourself and taking it too seriously. Mm-hmm. Reading is a form of entertainment, also to some degree. So similarly to a movie, similarly to a sitcom, to your point, if you're not feeling it, you're not in the right headspace to consume the narrative, to consume the storyline, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just put it down, put it down and come back to it later. It's quite okay to do that. There isn't a different standard to reading as opposed to watching TV. And again, that's one of the things we want to drive home. To some degree, the comparison of like it's a form of entertainment. So you get to control the pace, right?
Totally.
Not someone else's expectation. Oh, you bought a book and didn't even read it. So it's okay.
It's my business to waste as much money on hardcover books as I want to.
Right. It is my resources being utilized.
Exactly.
And speaking of, I mean, that's also even a good point. Being in Chicago, I would love to know, like, what are some specific resources, some specific places that you can go that would help folks to read, or just like might be cool reading vibes. Like, where do you go in Chicago to like read a book sometimes?
Cool reading vibes. So I'm a big fan of the library. So I have just sort of a perpetual hold list at my local library. It's delivered to the one closest, any book automatic that is on hold and that becomes available is automatically delivered to my library. I have a time on Saturday mornings where I go pick up whatever is on hold for me and I bring it home. Sometimes I read all of them. More often than not, I don't. But so I always have a book. I always have a new book. I always have a book that someone has recommended or I've seen online that I found interesting. So I think, between that and like my Kindle always being loaded with books, with ebooks from the library, I just always have something to read. In addition to the, stacks and stacks of unread books in my home. So that's one thing. I think in terms of where I read, I intentionally made my home so that I had sort of multiple places in it where I would just be very comfortable just sitting down with a book, whether it was for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and just made those places very cozy. So I think, so I love being able to have that. And then I'm also a big fan of coffee shop reading. I like, there's a coffee shop near me. It's more like a tea shop, which I really like. It has a outdoor patio, and on a nice day, I'll go sit outside and read there. So I love Chicago. I think there's a great sort of patio and rooftop culture. I take public transportation lots of places. So there's lots of time to read on the, while waiting for the train or while on the train. So I think like most places, it's not sort of out of, no one will judge you for taking your book and sitting at the bar or sitting in the restaurant or coffee shop and reading for a little while. So it's nice. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And kind of the reason too, for that question, I feel like no one ever judges you when you go somewhere and read, but there are definitely places like that just kind of really support and exude, oh yeah, I should really read a book here. Like I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need to bring a guest. I can go by myself and just enjoy the conversation. What up, Jewel? What up?
Hello.
You came in at the right time. We were just talking and sharing about places we like to read. And I was just sharing that in DC, and again, I love giving shout outs because I feel like, again, those places that love on readers, to me, like they deserve all of the kudos. One, because bookstores are hard to keep open, right? So I want to promote Sankofa as one space. If you're ever in DC, Sankofa is a beautiful place to read. You can go there and have like wine and a meal, and you can also buy your books, bring your books, and you're gonna run into so many beautiful people who are doing their own thing, right? So definitely want to shout out Sankofa in DC. They're the pinnacle of what you would think of as like a patio. They even have the patio thing you were just describing, like benches outside. It's just the whole vibe. In and out, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's African owned. and the community is so supportive. Like even if you want to go there to learn Italian, like you can. Like they have all kinds of classes, but I know they definitely specialize in language and in teaching people. But yeah, Jewel,
That's amazing.
hop on in here. This happy hour book check, girl. You looking lovely.
Hey, Jewel.
Thank you. Today's my birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday.
baby.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
So, do you have your birthday drink near you?
Yeah, it's water.
Okay. That's fun too. We love a hydrated girl.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, at the age of 40, all about drinking water and minding my business.
Hello.
That
That part.
Um,
Any special places where you like to read in Jersey? Or you
yeah,
want to share
well,
anything? Feel free.
Jersey, I don't know that I would limit it to just Jersey, but I mean, pre-baby, I'd love to read at the beach and at the park and outdoors. Oh yeah, okay. So Branch Brook Park in Newark, New Jersey used to be a fave, but now the only physical books that I actually read are picture books for the baby. So for myself, it's more so audiobooks at home or in the car. That's my vibe now as I'm getting adjusted to new mom life.
I love it.
And I hope to pick up a physical book for myself again. I would just like to chill out in Newark Public Library. They have some beautiful libraries here in Newark. So that used to be my little happy place. She's been to the library once. But again, just getting books for her, I can't even imagine trying to hold the book and her at the same time. So hopefully my life will go back to that because I do love a physical book. But audiobooks have been serving me well the past 6 months now.
Oh, I love that. That's been a common theme. Public libraries, y'all. Go to the public library, get your read on. You know, there's always a beautiful nook. Again, I don't know if your audio's working, G. She knows we have beautiful book libraries also here in DC, where none other you can find. And what I've noticed, I don't know if y'all noticed in y'all respective cities, a lot of the libraries are starting to have rooftops. We have at least 3 now in DC that have fabulous rooftops. I mean,
oh wow,
like the gardens, the flowers, the benches. They have outlets outside. I went to, what was it yesterday? Felicia Rashad had a book conversation with Misty Copeland. And then afterward, we went to the rooftop at the MLK library. And it was just it was life. It was life.
How amazing.
Got my whole life together yesterday.
Wow. I don't know of any libraries in New York or New Jersey that have rooftops. Now you got me wanting to get on my Googles to see whatever I've been missing out in life. I feel like a rooftop and a library combined. That sounds like heaven.
There's one in Chicago, the Harold Washington branch, which is the main main library in the Loop, so downtown, it's called the Winter Garden, and it's just a glass roof area, so there's always sunlight streaming in, and they have little tables. They often do weddings and receptions up there. It's been closed since the pandemic started, but I've been meaning to go back and see if it's open again. I don't make my way downtown very often, but it might be worth a trip just to be able to sit there with the book. It's gorgeous. If you Google it, it's a really great space. So shout out to
I
the
lived in
public library.
Chicago for 4 years and never knew that existed. That's a tragedy.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Wow.
They have weddings there?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Chicago.
Yeah. It's a beautiful space. It's expensive to have your wedding there, but it's beautiful if you can get it.
That's so dope. I feel like, and Jewel too, feel free. We were kind of rapping on just reading lifestyles. I know you shared you're doing a lot of audiobooks, but if you have any tips that have been helpful for you, I know for me, The one that recently I found out, y'all, that works really nicely. And mind you, I don't know how long I'm gonna keep it up, but fingers are crossed. Trying to get up earlier in the day, believe it or not, to read. And I didn't think that was gonna be my vibe because I'm not a morning person, but it's been helpful. So I'll wake up and first thing I'll read for like just an hour before I start my work, because I'm like, I'm more than just work, right? I can't keep this same pattern of just work, living to work, right? I have to actually live life, and some of that is like doing other things that I like to do, such as read. So hour every morning, I'll just try to read something. I may not be successful. I may only read for 20 of those minutes or 30 of those minutes, but the first hour of the day, I am trying to read something. So that's my little tidbit to share. It's been working for the last couple of weeks for me.
I admire that. I'm not a morning person. It's a struggle, but the sense of accomplishment you feel when you do something first thing in the morning before everyone else is up and before the day has even started. I get it, but so yeah, hats off to you on that.
We'll see how long it lasts. I'm not a morning person either. Not at all. So the segment I think we maybe perhaps all have been waiting on. And I don't know, G, if your audio's working at this point, because again, no. I think it's the earpiece. I don't know if there's a way to not use the earpiece and just like go straight audio, because I know you had a lot to say about the book. We've talked about it personally. Y'all, this is the segment. We're going to do it. Whether you have your book or not, Books Up, Bad Vibes Down, we want to talk about my man, the book of the month with our reading partner. Oh my goodness, y'all.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm late, but
Yes, Books Up, Bad Vibes Down. One more time. G.
Hold up.
I know you outside. You like, girl, what you doing?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Give me one moment. I'm gonna bring it up. I had to take care of that audio issue. I had it ready. It was primed and ready. And then audio, it does that. Oh, here we go.
but
Come on, picture. My picture doesn't want to come up. I am in the right book though. Well, I was listening to audio, but the picture doesn't want to come. They saw the picture earlier, but it was here.
I know it was. We appreciate you. This is the part.
I tried.
It's okay.
You having all the tech issues today, huh?
And it was so fun before we started. We were communicating. Yeah, everything. Yeah.
We were talking for
I'm so sorry, guys.
Before we started. It was just me and G, and everything was going perfectly in terms of sound.
Yes.
Look, we are okay. We're gonna talk about this book of the month, y'all. No spoiler alerts. But yeah, who wants to crack it off? Of course, I have potential questions. I have themes that we could talk on, but would love to know from y'all perspectives. Yay, nay, was it a dud? How you feeling?
While you can hear me, I'll jump in just in case. So I told Simona that one of my first impressions was that it was refreshing. It was, and that I typically don't feel that way reading or listening to a book. That's not one of the adjectives I would use to describe it, but I definitely felt this way. It was a subject matter that I don't believe I've read about before. So that impressed me. I could not immediately guess what was around the corner. So that kept me wanting to continue along with the story to find out, well, what's going to happen? So, with a lot of serial tropes, I thought, oh, this is what's going to happen because the main character did this. But no, that wasn't it. It was something totally unexpected. I liked the relationships and how they were revealed to us, and how the characters were revealed to us, and their relationships to one another. And I thought that the introduction of Google as a character in the story was fascinating because it's so true. I had just told a friend of mine, my sister was home for Mother's Day, had just told a friend of mine how amused I was, how many times my sister picked up her phone and said, Google, what is Google? How do I Google? It was very amusing that the character was very similar to my sister in that regard. And I could really relate to a lot of the situations, that having that experience with her parents to some degree, not my mother, but my father. And and I just appreciated seeing how she kind of navigated and never gave up on trying to figure out who she was and where she was going, and how to get there. Like, she knew there was something that she needed to change, and she just, never gave up on trying to figure that out. So I appreciated that. I'll pass the mic over now.
Yes, perseverance.
Yeah.
Our main character had perseverance.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The Google as character was the only thing that didn't work for us when we discussed this on Sunday. And I think I'm curious how old your sister is, Jalinda, when you talk about her constantly.
She is, I think, 54.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's older, so it's not a generational. No, it's not generational. It's funny. I think I put her on that path. She has a master's degree, but she always said that just meant that I knew how to take tests and do my work on time. She's never been the strongest speller, so a lot of times she would call me and say, how do I spell? So at some point when she got her smartphone, I said, hey, just ask Google. And so she said, what do you mean? I said, if you just ask the phone, how do you spell retribution? Then it'll spell it out for you. She said, oh my gosh. She hasn't put the phone down since. So it's my fault.
Wait a minute.
That's hilarious. See, I had to, while I was reading this, I had to stop myself from judging her for not having to Google these very basic things. But so I sort of had, like, there were points in the book where I had to put the book down because I was so frustrated with her. But then I had to sort of, I had to step back and think, what were you like as a 25-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you have been like as a 25-year-old if you were as sheltered as she was as a 25-year-old? So it required a lot of like mental work to take her for who she was, and not get frustrated with her on the Google thing. And also not to be judgmental, because I also rely on technology. I can't spell to save my life. Like, autocorrect and spell check are my favorite things. So this is a different way. This is just a different way of relying on technology. And I'm sitting here like not being able to spell save my life. And she needs a little technological support too. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, it was just that was the one part of the book where we were all like, why is she Googling this? Why can't she ask a friend? This is.
I think if she didn't have that,
right?
I think if she didn't have that background from her mother, being, you're Ghanaian, you can't do this. You can't talk to people.
Yeah.
And so with her being in that position, who do you talk to? You talk to Google, because none of these people know me. They don't know where I'm from. They don't know my family.
You become an anonymous, data input, as opposed to, someone knows that.
Yeah. They can't talk about your family. They don't know who your family is.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a great point. I feel like one, I was definitely annoyed with you also, I'm with you, Cynthia. I was also annoyed by There were times where I actually could not read the Google results just because I'm like, why are we going to Google for this? But to your point, G, about her not wanting to tell the family business, right? So she was fearful of sharing. And then to your point, Cynthia, that this is a coming of age story, even from a
Mm-hmm.
25-year-old, which we don't necessarily think of coming of age stories that late in life. But if you grew up how she did,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was. This was very much I would label this all day as a coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, for her age is surprising, but it's nice to see that she perseveres. It's nice to see that she finally, at the end gets, her footing, right? To realize she is on the right path. I'm curious, is there any like favorite segments from what you all remember that you feel like will kind of always stick with you? And I'm saying that because what I understand about this book from a lot of folks, like I read several reviews or whatnot, is that this is a top 10 book. Like a lot of folks, so much so that this is already being adapted into a film, right? So I'm curious to know, was there any things that like really stood out to you? Like again, kind of like the cliche, like in terms of like what you were able to get from this book, either favorite passage or favorite memory from this book that you always carry with you, any of that kind of like heartstring moment you wouldn't mind sharing?
I
I
like
was
that they talked about. I'm sorry. I like that they talked about mental health aspect of it because I don't see that often, and so I appreciated that they touched based on that and explored trying to figure out that path and um, what she picked up along the way as far as resources outside of Google, but still that's just something that I appreciated that the author focused on. Yeah, because I know so many people that you know need that right now, and they don't even know how to begin that conversation.
I would say that for me, the book felt very current. Um, Listening to the audiobook, I didn't mind the Reddit threads and the Googles. I can see how reading that maybe it might have been a bit of a distraction, but to me that felt very current and a reminder that people are still writing and coming up with new works of fiction. So that was really refreshing in a sense to read. Um, I'm only about halfway through, so some of the things that initially stood out for me is kind of the antiquated ideas that life has to be figured out by 25, and a woman of that age, she should be, well, more so coming from the main character's mom, that she should be married and have kids at 25. But to me, that also felt very generational, like more so that ideal coming from her mom, and then also cultural. I know across the diaspora, a lot of uh, people get that similar message. I really enjoyed the introduction of the co-workers and some of the other characters. I don't know that I've ever read a book. I have not ever read another fiction book. I don't usually read too much fiction, so this whole journey with Lit Love has been nice to kind of introduce more fiction into my life. But I've never read a book that has had co-workers as characters and talking about that workplace dynamic. So that was nice and very relatable to read. And then one of the other things that stood out to me was perspective. And I think Cynthia had mentioned this about not being judgmental to the characters that you're reading about, but then also applying that to real life, because you don't ever know why someone is still living at home at whatever age they may be living at home. It could be taking care of an ill relative. So I really appreciated that perspective as I was reading through. One of the quotes that I wrote that really stuck with me was, what's the point of losing your virginity if not to fit in?
Mhm.
And so far where I'm at in the point in the book, that was one of the things that kind of jumped out. Like, yeah, people like we are not really having those conversations, and so some people might think that yes, I'm only going through these motions just to fit in, but what does that truly mean for your mental, your physical health, and you're developing as a sexual being? So that was one of the things that kind of stuck with me.
And I think you're right. I don't think I've ever read a book either where coworkers were characters, not in the way that is described in this book. Because what was nice is work meant a lot to this character, right? Like she wanted to, she's always had goals for herself, right? In terms of where she wanted to be career wise, and the characters were so relatable, right? And as Black women, we know that the baby, oh, y'all can't see the baby unless y'all watch it, but just adorable. Um, it's so nice to the characters, the word characters. I'm just gonna say it. We are used to the aggression, right? The microaggressions at work.
Didn't every single one of those white characters feel like someone you've met before?
Yes, I named
You're like, I have known a Joe.
Yes.
I have known a Joe.
Yes.
Oh, it was so annoying. So annoying. Yes. I couldn't agree more with you. I'm a bit curious, kind of knowing what y'all do know about the books. Can y'all say, like, okay, so I didn't read anything about the film just as yet, but who would be, like, just name some celebrities that could play potentially some of the characters, just to give people a good sense of this book.
I would love to see Michaela Cole in this project.
Oh,
I can see that.
I like her for this.
And say more if you don't mind as to why her.
I think that's a good choice.
I mean, just hearing the narrator's voice and knowing that with that, I don't know that without. Well, no, they did mention London throughout the book, but just knowing her upbringing in London and as a Black creative woman, she's a writer as well in the book, right? Am I remembering that fact correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Michaela Cole is just an awesome writer and creative person. I can see her fitting well in this narrative.
I can see that. What about? I'm curious. So she has two best friends, and this isn't a spoiler, but she does have two best friends. One, I think it's called. Her name is Shu, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, Shu and is it
Nia?
Nia?
Yes, yeah. Who would play Shu potentially?
Oh gosh, she was Indian, right? I think.
I thought she was like East Asian.
Yeah, I would say East Asian.
East Asian, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she's British, but I like that the woman who played the daughter in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, her. That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah. She has
because she has that
quirky,
attitude.
Yeah, attitude to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about Nia? Who would play Nia, the supportive friend who's just like very like warm?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, I can't because there's nothing specifically that sticks out about Nia to me outside of just being a loyal friend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the woman who played from Game of Thrones. Remember, like the curly-haired woman who played.
Oh yes, she's good.
I like her.
Oh, I also like the girl. I don't know. She plays she's in the new Flash film. She
Cool.
plays the love interest, Iris, but I can't think of her name.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in other stuff. She's a young black woman.
We have
Um,
a cast. We have
can't think
a
of her
viewer
name.
weighing in and said, "Yes, love Michaela Cole. Cast her." I could definitely see her. Also, I feel like so. Although maybe it's hard to point out some of the supporting characters, but even down to the brother, I'm like the brother. Although he's not like he's an integral part in the book, but and I feel like they gave him enough description where. And I mind you, I'm horrible at names, so I will not try to recall anyone's name. I pictured him really well. I guess is my point. Like the description they gave
Was his name James?
him.
Was it
Hmm.
James?
Hmm. Like I
It
pictured him as
is.
being
Okay.
well built, right? They said he's well built, had like maybe gold teeth, some of the time, well dressed, always smelling good, and like they gave that character a lot of swag. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I wonder who they're gonna cast as the brother. Because he should be this like debonair person, right? I would think. And then I initially the only person who I could think of, and this is just maybe because that sitcom is coming to an end. But what's the sitcom? Oh my goodness, why did I lose it? I was surprised he was English. I didn't know he was British until like the third season. Jesus. It's the one that talks about the war on drugs. Oh, everybody loves him. He has a nice smile. He's slender. It's a movie with like a lot of killing and like about the crack epidemic. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
was it Snow?
Yeah, Snowfall.
Snow?
The main sorry.
Snowfall. Okay. I've
Yes.
never actually watched it, but are you talking about the main character?
Yes. I
He's
could see
very
him playing the
handsome. He
brother.
has swag. He has
A lot
swag.
of swag.
Yeah.
And just and then he doesn't even have to put an accent. It's great, right? He could just come as
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
I thought he could potentially play the brother. So I was definitely Snowfall. Yes. Thank you, Rachel. I couldn't think of it for the life of me. But yeah, I was just curious to know what y'all thought in terms of like cast roles, cast decisions. I feel like when it comes to this book, y'all gonna want to read this before it's on film, before it gets you are going to want to read this before it becomes a movie or sitcom, however it's that being adapted as a film. Like y'all are gonna want to read it first. Because there's a lot of lovely, I think, nuances that may not quite translate over to film as well as we would think. And one of the
Always.
never. One of the things I found interesting, again, I'm gonna pick y'all brain on this question related, this last question around the book, is if you notice, and I don't know what this is about. If you know, let's talk about it. But nowhere in the book do they actually share any musical references. Although she listens to music, she's in settings where music is happening, right? There's even two particular nights where she goes to a club and she talks about having a good time. She talks about, enjoying the music, but never once does the author mention any particular artist, any particular genre of music, which I find very interesting. Lit Love Journey, one of the things we like to do is pair a music list to a book every single month. And this one is no different. So I have some pairing suggestions in terms of what are some of the songs that really work nicely with this book. One being Ordinary People. If you followed us on our IG story, you know that we put up a post with the song Ordinary People, because when it comes to this character, when it comes to this book, I feel like they do a great job at just pointing that out, right? That we are all people. We are all just figuring out this life, right? And again, no spoilers, but when it comes to like her relationship with her parents, you'll see exactly why I feel like that song will be on the playlist, Ordinary People by John Legend. What are some other songs that y'all feel like would be on the playlist for Mame?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I am horrible with the names of songs, but
It's okay. You can hum it. You can sing it for us. You can karaoke it. It's okay.
yeah, I would have to put a little bit more thought into that. But I think that's a great question. 'Cause
Yeah, when you
that's one of
look
my
at
favorite part
collaborative
of watching
playlists,
shows is the soundtrack. So
Oh yeah. Like there's no music references in this whole book, y'all. It's kind of amazing. So it'll be really dope to see how they handle the musical direction for this
mhm.
adaptation of this book. So
yeah,
we might be able to suggest them. I don't know. We might be able to suggest some tunes.
yeah, I didn't notice that. I did notice that they didn't. You couldn't really place this in time, right? Like you knew that it's vaguely now, but you couldn't say whether it was 2019 versus 2023 versus maybe even a little bit before that or in the future even. And I
Mhm.
kind of like that, and I wonder if that was on purpose. The music, no music, was on purpose to avoid like dating it. Um, but
Hmm. That's a good point.
Because they didn't play music anywhere else in the storyline besides when she was at the club. Am
I
I correct? Or did I
I could
am I
have sworn
missing
when she
something?
went to church, they mentioned the music. I feel
Did
like
they mention it?
about the
Okay.
church or her mom being very religious. I thought there
Well,
was some,
that's for sure.
yeah, like there was some
I just
imagery,
don't remember the music.
but never once did she give us hints. Like, was the mama listening to, I don't know, Kirk Franklin or more contemporary
Hmm.
gospel?
right,
I have no idea. That's that level of detail. Maybe you're right, Cynthia, it's because they didn't want to date it. That's a very good point because when you give musical references, it kind of gives you, to some degree, a
right.
gist of like, I
Especially if
don't
it's playing in like a club, right? Because the club will have the more current music.
know.
I think it's been a long time since I've been to a club, so I don't know if it's
I
changed.
just
But
put it look. Same. No, but I agree. That's a very good point. I didn't think about it from that aspect. Maybe it was super intentional for that very reason to not give a specific time frame. But yeah, we're gonna work on this playlist, y'all. I feel like there are so many songs that I feel like was could potentially be on the playlist. So definitely when we post this episode, y'all, get excited. We are going to make a playlist suggestion based on the book, just because there's so many points where it's kind of mentioned or referenced, or it would just add value, right? In terms of having a song that supports the text or that gives you, puts you in the mind of what exactly is happening. And definitely, if you love Ordinary People, if you love what that song is about, you'll love this book, in my humble opinion. The two go together very well. And that's without giving, again, spoilers. Any other things y'all want to share before we wrap about the book? Anything you want to like leave folks with in terms of reading lifestyle, book culture, any of that? We appreciate y'all so much for chiming in on a Thursday in the evening after work. So, yeah.
I would just say, I didn't get a chance to contribute earlier, but definitely if you are, one of the reasons I got back into reading books was because of Audible. I have plenty of books at home, uh, but I don't always have time. But I really enjoy stories. And so Audible is giving me the flexibility to listen to a book while I'm in the shower, while I'm cooking a meal, while I'm in the car driving, while I'm at home cleaning, where I don't have time to sit and flip a page. That would be my
yeah,
preference. But, don't let not being able to sit with a physical book prevent you from participating in a book club or maybe, as I mentioned to Cynthia and Simona earlier, I listened to the entire Vampire Chronicles
Mhm.
series on Audible, which took a long period of time. It's about, I think it was maybe 12 books. So that was a commitment there. But, having that flexibility to still enjoy a book, but, you know, by listening to it, just don't limit yourself.
I love that.
That would be what I want to say.
Thank
Yeah, and along those same lines, reading should be fun. It's called reading for pleasure for a reason. If you're reading for grad school or law school or whatever, I salute you. It's hard, but reading in your free time shouldn't be that. You should read what you want, and if you don't like something, move on to something else. There are so many books, and there's one out there that you'll enjoy. So. And I'm talking to myself as I'm saying this, it's, put it down if you're not feeling it and pick it up some other time and find something else that you'll like. There's just so much good stuff out there. And I hope everyone is able to treat it as the, entertaining, fun activity that it should be, as opposed to a chore.
I love that. Thank y'all so much again. I'm sharing this last question on screen one to be mindful and respectful of those who are chiming in. So just as a closing, I'm happy to take this when anyone else can definitely chime in, but I wanted to present this before we go. To everyone on the panel, Nikki Purple is just saying, what is the one thing you took from the book that you feel is a game changer for where you are in life right now? And I'll say, and I'll also try to wrap in my response, I'll try to wrap in, a little bit of kind of what was shared a bit ago, just in terms of really making sure that it's clear to folks that reading it's a vibe. What I would say in terms of a game changer from this book, that I got a chance to be reminded that it's kind of like what I was saying about the songs, y'all. Like, I'm quirky. I love pairing music to books because it's my jam. And I definitely got from this book that we are all ordinary people. And we have to remember that when it comes to our parents, when it comes to our loved ones who are elders in our lives, that they are human, just like we are. They put on their pants one leg at a time, just like us. And because of that, we can't, be afraid of what that looks like and what that really means when it comes to analyzing. Really, we shouldn't be analyzing, right? We should just be more feeling, more compassionate. And this character was all of those things, but yet and still at the same time, when the rubber met the road, she struggled with realizing that people in her life, elders, parents, aunties, uncles, and them, that they were people too, and they weren't perfect. So for me, that was a game changer for sure. And I'm happy that a book can act as a tool for learning, right? Why not? We learn from each other. We learn from movies. We learn from music. There are so many things in life that can act as a teaching agent. Why not a book? Why not a story that is, in fact, when you look at the author's story, which she shares some of it in the closing of the book, this mirrors closely to her life. So you realize that, oh, yes, fiction, but it comes from a place of realness, right? And because it comes from such a real place, I think that's what made this story so much more fun to read, because it is relatable and it is easy to imagine and see the characters and see what's happening in real time. So don't be afraid of utilizing books as a form of teaching and as a form of fun, to what Cynthia said. So yeah, thank y'all again. And when I say this, I appreciate each of you again for being here. Thank y'all for joining the Lit Love Journey for the month of May, reading alongside our, I'm going to say family now, family in Chicago. Okay?
Absolutely.
And please know you got family in DC from here on out when it comes to like reading, lifestyle, culture. We are here for it. So let's be sure to stay connected. Y'all, please chime in next or the last Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. We will be here on YouTube, and continuously so we will be promoting these conversations as episodic series where you can dial in, learn about a book, be encouraged to read. And at any point, you can tap into any one of us to make sure that you have an opportunity to connect with people, real people who enjoy the same thing you do, reading. So on that note, have a beautiful weekend, y'all. And we will catch y'all next month.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun and really nice talking with you about this book and life in general.
Yes, same here.
Thank you, Cynthia. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.